There is evidence from Russia's security forces, and the state agency TASS has admitted that the Russian security services had actually received information about from the US about the potential terrorist attack. And that attack was quite specific. According to the US officials, Washington had collected intelligence in March that the ISKP, that is the Islamic State Khorasan Province, that's the Islamic State version of in Afghanistan, was planning an attack in Moscow. It wants to create a caliphate from Afghanistan, Iran, Pakistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. And Putin called the warnings from the US provocation. And the FSB has already said that it had managed to stop an attack by the ISKP on a Moscow synagogue. So it's perfectly believable that the ISKP was the author of the attack on the concert center in Moscow, the Crocus Concert Center. However, Putin has given orders that Ukraine should be fingered with responsibility for the attack, and therefore that is the information which is now coming out in buckets all over the Hindustan Times, all over a number of outlets which are heavily influenced by Russian media. There is a churning out of the idea that, as Putin calls it, the Ukraine window was open, waiting for these militants to escape into Ukraine, into the safety of Ukraine from Russia, and that their car was intercepted on the way. It seems to me to be highly unlikely. Then the next issue, which is being put forward a great deal, is that if this was ISIS attacks generally end in a suicide. So why do these four guerrillas who attacked the complex in Moscow, why did they try and escape? Why didn't they just kill themselves? Well, you know, the bottom line is that terrorists are cowards. And if they can escape, then I presume they do. If they can't escape, then they scream some obscenity and blow themselves up. I think the idea that suicide is the aim of a terrorist attack is a misunderstanding. And the whole suicide concept, which developed in Iran under Ayatollah Khomeini, is a perversion of the message of Islam, which is very clear that suicide is forbidden, and that somebody who commits suicide for whatever reason is damned. The information is not only in the Holy Quran, it's also in the Hadiths, and it's very specific. Better for that man if he had not been born, said the Prophet. And under the instruction of the Prophet, or following his example, an imam will not be present at the funeral of a suicide victim. So I think one has to take this propaganda with a pinch of salt, in terms of whether we believe it or not. I know there's a lot of people around the internet who love to have both sides to a view. A lot of things don't have both sides. The truth is absolute. Evil is absolute. There aren't two sides to that debate. There's only one side, which is the correct information, and the other side is false. And we've got slightly too used to the idea that there's always two sides to a story. There's not. There's not. We have seen horror. We have seen evil in the last 100 years. Are you going to suggest that there's two sides to that story? Whether that's the Holocaust, or whether that's 9/11 or any other terrorist event. Evil is evil. There aren't two sides to these stories. And the people who were behind the Crocus concert terrorist attack were evil. I don't believe that President Zelensky would promote that sort of behavior. I don't believe it at all. And I do, on the other hand, believe that Putin would do anything he can to find an excuse to ratchet up the war effort in Ukraine. Any excuse. So simply using that Cicero methodology, cui bono, who benefits? Putin. Putin benefits by pointing the finger of blame at Ukraine. And more than that, he has form, because right at the beginning of his reign of, I was going to say his reign of terror, but right at the beginning of the time when he first became president, remember there was that siege of flats. And he was quite happy to let people die if that meant that he then had an excuse to go into Chechnya and destroy the Chechens. Absolutely. Putin has form. He is a heartless maniac. Now, of course, there will also be the usual suspects who will say, but didn't you say a while ago Putin is dead? Yeah, of course I did. Putin abandoned life long ago. And I have no idea whether this particular maniac is Putin or somebody masquerading as Putin. But Putin presides over a group. There used to be 3 groups. Now I think there's only 2. And they hover around, and each one uses Putin as a sort of flag, an icon of control. If Putin is alive, he's not got that much power. He's a voice. He's a mechanism for that group. And if Putin isn't alive, if he's just a doppelganger, well, he's a very good actor. He's a very good actor, and that is it. My own instinct is that he is now portrayed by a doppelganger, which may explain the extraordinary delay between the terrorist attack and Putin's public appearance. Either that or he was cowering in the fridge.